The script for this video is taken from an article written in the 1960s by Mrs. Mollie Carey and published in a small booklet, Enigmas of the Plain, published then. It concerned a number of amazing photographs showing images on the stones of Stonehenge and Avebury, taken in those far-off days before access to Stonehenge was restricted. The comments on the pictures are also by Mrs. Carey. Thus, where the pronoun I appears in the narration, it refers to her and not to me. What a shock this discovery at Stonehenge has been. When we went there to look for the carving of a fish, little did we know what we were going to uncover. I'd known for some time that there'd been some carvings at Stonehenge, but I thought there must have been carved wooden posts. I also got it impressed in my mind that the ancient name of this place was Hagar Atan. Strange things had happened to me as I was walking on the downs. I'd heard harps playing, drums beating, some sort of bagpipes. Then these impressions went through my mind. In the beginnings they've got it wrong. It is important. I often thought of the people that had lived long ago in the past. I couldn't help it with all the signs there were all about me. Then I got it firmly impressed on my mind that I was going to find some carved stones, another Stonehenge. I searched the downs for miles looking for it. It was while I was looking for this other henge monument that I got the warning. We are trying to give you another chance. Listen to us. Do not be afraid. It's nothing to do with the supernatural, but a science that you do not understand. Then I got the warning that we were releasing forces into the upper atmosphere that neither we nor they could control, and that our planet would be destroyed and others with it. It was that which made me feel very worried. I was sure I'd been wandering on the downs too much on my own, and I was going round the bend. I stopped going out on the downs so much, but the voices persisted and told me that when the time was right, I would find the carving of a fish at Stonehenge. Then one evening in September, my daughter had two of her friends in our house, and we got talking about Stonehenge. I told them of some of the things that had happened to me on the downs. A few evenings later, as I was busy in the garden, they arrived again and said they wanted to go to Stonehenge to see if there really was a fish carving on the stones there. I was bundled into the car and we were on our way before I had a chance to realise what was happening, and that began it all. We found the symbolic elephant heads first. Then, to our amazement, we could see there were other things. There was what seemed to be a bull, and when we photographed it, we found there was a man on horseback apparently tackling it. We found my fish, and we photographed it. We found we had a canoe load of fishermen, a bear's head, and a hunter thrown in. A very strange thing about it all was that I began to know what we would find before we found it, and even now I can see things on the stones that my helpers can't see at all, until they're photographed, when they can see them plainly. Gradually the real Stonehenge began to reveal itself to us. Some of the carvings are quite easy to see with the naked eye, and it really is a mystery that trained archaeologists hadn't seen any of them before. The funny thing is, the axes and daggers they've made such a fuss about are parts of the pictures. It's a good job they told me not to be afraid, because one night I was standing by the heelstone and suddenly it began to glow. It took on the appearance of a serpent. Its eyes lit up, it writhed, and a man came out of its mouth. The body vanished, but the head remained above the nose. I could see big bonfires burning all around the outside of the ditch, and I could smell the wood smoke. All around me were people, a noble, highly civilized race, not a bit like ancient Britons are supposed to have been. They wore lovely clothes in rich colours, and they were laughing and singing. I could hear singing from the temple and the sound of the drums and harps. It was beautiful. The temple was a blaze of light, and on every upright I could see carvings in colour. Then it was all gone. It only lasted for a flash of time, but everything was impressed on my mind. I knew then the meaning of the serpent and why it was placed at the entrance to the temple. The serpent was a token put there by the sky people. It was their sign. Later I learned that they like us to know that they travel the road of the serpent along the highways of the suns. Some time in the remote past there had been a catastrophe of such gigantic force that only the remnants of people on Earth survived, and the sky people had come down to help put the survivors on their feet. One highly civilized race had escaped from their submerged continent. They arrived in boats along the coasts of Britain and Ireland. Some of the people from the continent arrived in the Americas. The serpent was placed at the entrance to the temple as a sign that the sky people would always help and protect the people who used the temple, which was dedicated to Jehovah, the ruler of the universe, at whose bidding the sky people had come. It's placed with its back to the sunrise as a symbol that the sky people come from worlds beyond the sun. The sunrise touches the serpent and sends light and fertility. In fact, that is one of the reasons the serpent was looked upon as a serpent of creation and fertility in so many places in ancient times, but the true meaning got lost with the passing of the centuries. I believe the serpent was a token that there would not be another catastrophe as long as the people lived as the sky people taught. I don't know how the link with the sky people ever came to be broken, but the temple has been desecrated, and there is a great feeling of tragedy about the place. This picture was not taken by Mollie Carey. There are many carvings at Stonehenge. All the stones, including the blue stones, have them. Who are the men who wore a little pencil-thin moustache and a variety of headdresses, including cow horn? Who are the lovely women who are on the stones? Priestesses? If anyone reading this thinks there cannot be anything strange at Stonehenge, I would suggest they get the book by Professor Atkinson, 1956, and look at plate 20b, the blue stones on a sledge. If they look at the trilithon nearest the real entrance, they will see that two uprights have become a group of statues. On the single upright to the left they will see a huge head in 3 dimensions. I wrote to Professor Atkinson and pointed this out, but received no reply. When we went to Avebury we got quite a shock. We banished the fur-clad ancient Britons from Stonehenge, and within a few minutes of our arrival at this place we realised they had nothing to do with the stones here either. As we walked along among the huge stones, we could see sculptured human heads full size, groups of statues and animals. We paused by a statue of a king sitting on a throne, and we scratched our heads in bewilderment. I felt a creepy sensation going down my neck, for it didn't seem possible that trained archaeologists had missed these wonders. The stones of Avebury are more of a wonder than those of Stonehenge, for it's evident that the working here has been done by a highly civilized people. These stones must have been put here thousands of years ago, for the carvings are very worn, but they can be traced with the naked eye, and I think the camera will pick up what we can't trace. These carvings are of a people who wore clothes and shoes and had chairs to sit in. I wonder if they ever saw those legendary folk wearing animal skins wandering about. I suppose they do fit in somewhere, but they certainly didn't build Stonehenge or Avebury. This is a strange group. I believe these used to move in some way. You can only really get them from this angle. The strange crocodile on the lintel comes out all right from the front. He is laughing his head off. There is an elephant on the right-hand upright of the trilithon, with large ears and trunk reaching down to the ground. There is a tall figure in robes and a tall headdress on the other upright. Another strange complex of carvings. Far left, the arrow points to the nose of a sphinx, which takes up most of this side. See how plainly the mouth is marked. Observe the calm expression on the face. His chin rests on his hand, or his hoof. Then there is another head inside, which seems to be part of another head beside the Sphinx. Also the horns and eyes of a bull looking right. There is another large head pointing right. To the right is Fred in his strange uniform. Another picture of Fred on the left-hand side of the right upright. Note his very modern boots. This is a picture showing how they all come out. See the faces on the left upright and the one on the upright behind. The upright next to it has a horse's head, and a man carved on it. These are not carvings as you Earth people know them, rather they are pictured. They certainly are very strange. The stone on the top lintel represents the soul of man, sarcophagus. There are several heads here, study it hard. See the symbolic elephant's head on the stone on the right. There is also a female head on it. Also on the stone lying down, there seems to be another picture of Fred, which suggests this stone was originally standing. When we photographed the heel stone, we got a serpent complete with pupils in its eyes. I had a vision which explained the mystery and meaning of this stone. Carnicos was skilled in sciences beyond our knowledge. He was one of the supervisors at Stonehenge. He it was who set the beam into the future, and I was the one it was beamed on. It linked me to Stonehenge, and Stonehenge to another planet in some way. They've picked up the SOS Earth in Danger Help Us, something to do with an ancient promise. Are these spacecraft trying to land at Stonehenge? Far left is a figure in strange military uniform, Fred, with a little mascot, woman, carved by his elbow. Note that he has boots on. I have better photos of him, but an archaeologist has them at the moment. In some photos he reaches over and touches the stone opposite. This stone has a huge female head with a headdress. You will see better from a distance. The stone to the left of this one, not in the picture, has a marvellous head on it. This is a carving of a woman with an offering on her head. She is easy to see with the naked eye. The best photo ever taken is in Stonehenge by Professor Atkinson, 1956. Look at plate 20B. The picture is of a television programme by the BBC showing how the bluestones could have been brought to Stonehenge. The temple is in the background. Look at the trilithon at the right. You will see that the two uprights have merged together and become a group of statues. A single upright at the left has a head in 3 dimensions. We tried hard to make them see us. Every stone, every bluestone, is covered in carvings. Avebury. Crown. Male face with another head beside it. A cat. A woman with plaits. Same stone, different angle. This now looks like a bearded face. Some detail lost on this head. Female head looking left. A group of heads. Elephant's head is in the centre. A stone by the road appears to be glowing. Look at the heads. All this is weathering. Not to us ordinary folk it isn't. This remarkable shadow carving is the same technique as is used at Stonehenge. The tender expression on the man's face leaves no doubt these are lovers. This stone tells a story of these people. This is not primitive art. It's beautiful even though it's worn. The man wears a headdress with gold in it. He has on a shirt and short waistcoat type jacket and a gold necklace or chain. The woman has on a crown with a piece coming low onto the top of the nose, maybe feather plumes. Material from her headdress comes down under her chin. I rather think this depicts a reunion of some sort. Another man's head with a moustache, an older man, probably a parent, came out beside them, looking right. This picture was a three-dimensional like the trilithons at Stonehenge. The other man is worked in with the other two. That's why he doesn't show now. But I can tell where he is. This was once in colour.